Welcome to the Prospective Doctor Podcast, brought to you by Med School Coach. Pre-med and medical students alike are encouraged to tune in each week for tips on how to become a strong med school candidate, gain acceptance into the school of your dreams, and succeed on your journey toward residency and becoming a doctor.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to have a very special guest on today, Dr. Kristin Yates, here with us to chat about life. And I'm excited to also say that she's also a fellow podcaster. So we'll get into that later. But first, I want Dr. Yates to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Rakita. I'm really excited to be here with you. And I love being on podcasts, which is why I started my own. I'd probably say for you. I am an OB-GYN physician, and I graduated from residency back in 2016. And where I kind of got into the podcasting realm was I graduated and thought that I would finally feel like I made it. And I didn't feel like that at all. I felt like a huge imposter, and it almost took medicine for me. I almost had to quit my job. So now, fast forward 4.5 years, I coach and help other women physicians with imposter syndrome who want to stay in medicine and not leave their jobs. So that's me.
That's phenomenal. And we'll get into a little more about that in a little bit. But first, I want to take you way back when, because we have a lot of students listening to us who may be considering OB-GYN. Can you tell us about your journey to that part of medicine?
Yes, absolutely. So I kind of think I always had in the back of my mind that I would be in women's health somehow. When I was a first-year medical student, I joined the OB-GYN interest club, and that's really kind of the only interest club I joined. So I must have had like this subconscious thing that I would be in women's health. And what really drew me to that was it's this wonderful mix of primary care and surgery. And then you have this really amazing obstetric care and, delivering babies and all of that kind of thing. So it's just such a unique field. And also the ability to provide care in a safe place for women. I think that it's so important. That really drew me to the field of OB-GYN.
I find that is the reason a lot of people are drawn to OB-GYN. And it's always that battle of, you want to provide women's health. Do you want to be an internist that specializes in that, or a family medicine doctor that delivers babies, or submerge yourself completely into OB-GYN? And I typically find the thing that helps students distinguish which pathway they'll go is if they enjoy the surgical component of OB-GYN. Did you find that to be the reason why you pursued that particular field?
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. I think that it's really important to like procedures and like surgeries because that's probably going to be about 50% of your career if you're a general OB-GYN physician. And also, what other interests do you have? Like for me, family practice, I thought I would, that would be something that I really liked, but my own personality is I would like to dive a little bit deeper into one aspect. And as a family practice doc or a hospitalist, you have to know so much about so many different topics that I kind of shied away from that field because I could really kind of hone in on a smaller subset of topics under the roof of OB-GYN.
That makes complete sense. And I could definitely see that aspect, because for the listeners out there who don't know, I am a family practice doc, and I was fascinated. Like, I love women's health and those things, but not necessarily an OR girl. And I'm kind of glad I went with family because you have those interests. But during residency, you have a certain amount of deliveries that you are supposed to be a part of, and with the OB-GYN team. And we can talk about this on another episode, but it depends on what kind of environment you train in. So if it's more of an urban, opposed versus unopposed, they have all of those things going on. It'll be whether or not you are fully submersed with OB-GYNs while you work in these fields and do those things versus doing it as a part of just completely isolated with your family medicine residency. And I was more in an urban area where I trained. So I had a lot of interactions with OB-GYNs, and I realized that it wasn't for me. So we'll leave it at that. I was the black cloud, and I think I delivered like the most babies in my class. And I was like, okay, after third year, I'm done forever. So, yes.
Oh, I get that for sure. Yeah.
You mentioned that you are about 4.5 years out, and I'm around the same amount of years out at 5 years out. And you felt like you came to this crossroads where you were like, is medicine for you? And I don't know if you've noticed this with your colleagues and your friend group from like med school and residency, but it seems to be like that 3 to 5 year itch that a lot of new graduates are getting, which may be a little different than what our predecessors had, where they were like, this career is for me for 30 years. Would you say the same, that you've been noticing that?
Yeah, for me, it was more immediate, like within the first year of after residency. But I have noticed that a lot of people, within 5 years wonder if, is this all there is the question I think that comes up. And if I were to venture a guess as to why that happens, I think it's, all throughout training, medical school and residency, the only thing you're ever looking forward to is that first day as an attending, that residency graduation. That's the goal that you've been working towards for, 12 years. And it's never prompted, at least for me, it was never prompted, like, what are you going to do 10 years into your attending career? Like, what is your whole career, 30 or 40 years career in medicine really look like? It was just about getting through training and being an attending. And I think what happens is that we get to our goal, we become an attending, and we have given zero thought to the rest of our lives, which once we get there, you realize is the majority of the career, and you have not planned 1 second for it. And I think that's where this discomfort comes from for a lot of us.
At Med School Coach, we know that getting into medical school is hard. In fact, 60% of pre-meds who apply to medical school don't even get accepted. And if you want to get accepted into a top medical school, it's even harder. It's a complicated process, and even students with great grades and MCAT scores get left out. That's why more students than ever are turning to Med School Coach for admissions advising. Our advisors are all physicians and former admissions committee members, so they know exactly what medical schools are looking for. One-on-one admissions advising from Med School Coach makes all the difference. Our expert team will help you develop a game plan, prepare your application, edit your essays, and coach you for interviews. Every pre-med has a story, and we'll help you tell it so you can stand out from the crowd. Visit us online at medschoolcoach.com and use offer code PODCAST10 to save 10%, up to $400 on a Med School Coach admissions advising package. You can achieve your medical school dreams, and Med School Coach can help.
That makes a lot of sense. And you said through your experiences that help you kind of want to help others and develop things like your podcast called Imposter to Unstoppable. And I hesitated on the name because I was trying to get it correct, but I should know because recently I was a guest, and I'm thankful for allowing me to be a part of that. But how has starting the podcast and working on coaching help you help others?
I think the biggest takeaway I've had so far is women physicians specifically, telling me, I thought I was the only one who felt like that. And that's exactly how I felt. I thought I was completely isolated, that I was the only one who felt like I wasn't good enough or I didn't belong. And it's been so empowering and freeing for me to recognize that almost everyone feels that way, at least at one point in their career. And to give that gift to other women physicians has been the most rewarding thing for me so far.
I love that. And as we're kind of geared in this podcast towards pre-meds and med students, but also anyone who's listening who may be in medicine or outside of medicine and just listening, imposter syndrome is a real thing. And I can definitely see it through my mentor work with medical students and pre-meds that there's this self-doubt. And even if you get accepted, and when you get accepted, if you haven't been accepted yet, you may feel like I don't necessarily belong here. Do you have any advice for people who are feeling that sense of imposter syndrome, even though they have matriculated into this career?
Yeah, I do. And it's the first thing I'll say is that there's a good chance that over 70% of your colleagues, classmates feel exactly the same way, but are just not talking about it. I remember getting the call that I got into medical school and being 100% certain that it was a mistake. Like they called the wrong person. And there's probably a lot of your listeners who can relate to that feeling of I got here on accident. They're going to figure out I don't belong here and I'm going to get kicked out. And the best advice I can give you, which I would give myself in a heartbeat, is that medical school is supposed to be hard. If you think it's hard and you're working hard, nothing has gone wrong. It's supposed to be a challenge, and that's how you grow. And if you are able to look at your journey through medical school and residency, and even pre-medical school, and even like pre-med programs, and realize that this is an opportunity for growth, and I will get better, and I can learn things, and I can be a doctor, then every single one of your subpar grades or mistakes or errors, you will look at completely differently, and you will continue to make progress despite those mistakes. It's this underlying thought that it's supposed to be easy because college was easy or whatever. It's been easy for you for so long that now that it's hard, you don't belong, but it's supposed to be hard, and it's okay.
I love that you said that, because a lot of people don't realize, like, of course, you all have worked so hard to get to the position in which you are in, and you've had very good grades, and you've taken all of these standardized exams, and you've done all these extracurriculars, and they've given you a wonderful application, which has allowed you to matriculate into the school. But now everyone's in the same place, and everyone's getting this volume of information in which you've never even fathomed before. They say it's like drinking from a fire hydrant, and before you get into medical school, you're like, yeah, sure. And then you get in, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So everyone is dealing with this in a different way. And you may stumble. You may not do well on an exam. You may not do well on a rotation, but that's not the end for you. You're there for a reason. If you have hiccups, you'll figure out how to work on them and improve, because like you said, it's opportunities for growth. And this is the first time where you may encounter that, but it's not the last time in your career, because you're going to have intern year to go through and residency. And as you've heard from us, you may have some areas to reflect even after you're in attending. So there's always going to be opportunities for growth and learning. And a lot of times, like Dr. Yates said, you don't hear other people speaking about these things and talking about their feelings and what they're going through, and this sense of isolation or not feeling like they're enough. So you think that you're the only one going through it when you're actually not.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think even just knowing that, like the person next to you who's speeding through their test and passing it in like after 15 minutes, and you're like, what? On question 10,
Oh, that just gave me flashbacks to like our
seriously
test.
You're like, how are they done? Like, what is going on? Even that person probably is wondering if they're going to fail.
Yep. It is universal. So there's definitely things out there. Now, you mentioned that you help coach people. When would you recommend that someone explore hiring a coach?
Immediately.
Always get this question of what's the difference between a coach versus a mentor versus a therapist, and like when should they choose what, and how can it help?
This is great. This is a good question. And I think especially where coaching has become, it's more mainstream now. And there are some medical schools and residencies that include coaching in their curriculum, which is, I think, fantastic. So therapy, everyone should also have therapy. I feel very strongly about that. Therapy is a lot about like past focus. Like there are things that happened in your past that maybe you haven't completely processed, or that are still causing trauma for you or anxiety or something in some way. So a therapist, and this is generalization. Some therapists are also coaches, but this is a good way to think about it. A therapist can help you kind of process those memories so that you can take the past out of your present. A coach is going to allow you to be future focused and say, this is where I am today. Let's be really honest about where I am today, but also let's look ahead and see where I want to go instead of just haphazardly walking through life. A coach is going to say, where do you want to be in 10 years? And let's work on it now. And a mentor, I think I would describe as someone who has some aspect of their life that you would like to model. And it doesn't have to be a mentor doesn't have to have the complete package. Like, you should have a mentor for like your career, and you should have a mentor for your family life. I don't think there's one person who can be exactly what you want to be in all aspects of your life, that you see them as somewhere that you eventually want to be and who is enjoying their life. Please don't pick a mentor who hates their job. Like, do not do that to yourself. And they can model for you and like give you that permission and say, I got here, and that means you can too.
I love that. And I think that you said some very good things kind of to summarize. Like, mentors are important. They're role models, kind of. You can have more than one mentor, and that you don't have to look for that in one person. Like, some friends and I like to call it finding your personal board of directors, where there's a little bit from everyone. But then you also mentioned, like, and that's a good way to think about it, because I've never thought about that. Like, a therapist may be helpful for you to look at reasons why your past may be impacting your future and to move forward. But a coach is helping you plan for that future and figure out a game plan for that. So that's awesome. So you may be right. You may need all three.
You do. You definitely need all three. Yeah.
At Med School Coach, we know that studying for the MCAT exam can be challenging, especially for busy students on the go. That's why our team created MCAT Prep, the only all-encompassing study app built specifically for the MCAT. MCAT Prep by Med School Coach provides student access to extremely high-quality content and a personalized curriculum for free. The app has more than 250 videos, 1,000 flashcards, and 1,000 unique MCAT questions. Plus, MCAT Prep by Med School Coach allows students to create a personalized study schedule and track progress over time. You need every competitive advantage you can get to get into medical school, and now you can put the experts from Med School Coach into your pocket. It's the closest pre-med students can come to a personal tutor without spending a penny. Download MCAT Prep by Med School Coach for free at medschoolcoach.com/MCAT. Or download it directly from the Apple Store or Google Play Store. You can achieve your medical school dreams, and MCAT Prep by Med School Coach can help.
Talking about things like you talked about, you starting the podcast this year and things like that. For me, 2020 has been a year about exploring new interests and hobbies. For the listeners out there, I'm a little newer in the podcasting game than you. This podcast has been out for about 3 years, but I've only been hosting it since August. So it's quite a learning experience, and hopefully you guys can email us if you have feedback on what you want to hear or what I can do better. But is there anything that you're interested in trying next year in 2021?
Yes, I hope to continue to create programs specifically for women physicians who struggle with imposter syndrome. So that's been more of a recent, this in 2020, actually, I realized that that's really what I want to be focusing on. So 2021 for me is more about creating programs that are going to best serve that population, and also working on enjoying the now, like enjoying the journey, especially with my family, with my, I have 3 young kids. And realizing that, like, I have big goals for the future and I'm excited about them, but it doesn't mean that I don't like where I'm at now. Like, I love my job. I love, having my kids at home. And it's this juxtaposition of really being excited about the future, but really enjoying the present where I'm at. So that's my kind of 2021 goal, personal and professional.
That's awesome. You've shared so many pearls of wisdom to us today. As for a closing, I'm going to leave you with one final question. What is the best piece of advice that you would give students both in the pre-medical realm and the medical school realm as to what they should utilize to continue through this journey we call medicine?
The best advice that I can give your listeners would be, it's never too early to start planning for your sustainable career. It's really, really easy when you're in medical school and residency and as a pre-med to think about the next thing. Like, I can't wait to be a medical student. I can't wait to be a resident. But if you can also allow yourself to take a step back and say, I'm going to be a doctor. The dropout rate and failure rate out of medical school is extremely low. If you get into medical school, you're going to make it through most likely. Give yourself permission to have hobbies that you can maintain. Give yourself permission to focus on having a growth mindset and personal growth, and give yourself permission to ask really how you want to establish a career, because you can have any type of career you want, any type of work-life balance is possible for you. And if the earlier you start shaping that, the better off you're going to be in the future.
There's no better advice to that, because that will definitely impact how happy and successful you are in the future. So I really want to tell you how much we appreciate you joining us today. And for all the listeners out there, please click the subscribe button here, and be sure to check out Kristin Yates' podcast, Imposter to Unstoppable, as well. And subscribe there too. It's really good. I've been listening to it for the past few months, and there's so many pearls of wisdom, and it can definitely showcase how you're not alone in this. Everyone is going through something. It may not be the same scenario as you, and they may not showcase their imposter syndrome in the same way, but we're all going through this human experience.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is a really great conversation.
No problem. I'm sure we'll probably ask to have you back maybe sometime next year to talk a little bit about coaching and stuff. But thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. Well, I will with a new guest, but bye.
Each episode of the Prospective Doctor podcast is brought to you by Med School Coach. To access articles, videos, webinars, and free tools to help you succeed on your journey toward med school and beyond, visit our website, prospectivedoctor.com. We hope you tune in again next time.